Volume 2, Part 15 of Herodotus' Histories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Histories, Volume 2, by Herodotus of Halicarnassus, translated by E.D. Godley. Volume 2, Part 15. Then Histiaeus brought a great force of Ionians and Aeolians against Thessos. While he was besieging Thessos, a message came that the Phoenicians were putting out to sea from Miletus to attack the rest of Ionia. When he learned this, he left Thessos unsacked, and hastened instead with all his army to Lesbos. From there, since his army suffered from hunger, he crossed over to reap from Artenius the corn there and the Mysian corn of the Caicus plain. Now it chanced that in the region was Harpagus, a Persian, with no small force under him. When Histiaeus landed, Harpagus met him in battle, and took Histiaeus himself alive and killed most of his army. Histiaeus was taken prisoner in this way. The Greeks fought with the Persians at Melyne in the country of Artenius. The armies fought for a long time, until the Persian cavalry charged and fell upon the Greeks. So this was the accomplishment of the cavalry. When the Greeks were routed, Histiaeus, supposing that the king would not put him to death for his present transgression, did what showed he loved his life too well. He was overtaken in his flight by a Persian, and when he was caught and about to be stabbed, he cried out in the Persian language and revealed himself to be Histiaeus the Milesian. Now if he had been taken prisoner and brought to King Darius, he would have suffered no harm, to my thinking, and the king would have forgiven his guilt. But as it was, when Histiaeus was brought to Sardis, both because of what he had done, and for fear that he might escape and again win power at the court, Artaphernes, governor of Sardis, and Harpagus, who had captured him, impaled his body on the spot, and sent his head embalmed to King Darius at Susa. When Darius learned of this, he blamed those who had done it, because they had not brought Histiaeus before him alive, and he commanded that the head should be washed and buried with due ceremony, as of a man who had done great good to Darius himself and to Persia. Thus it fared with Histiaeus. The Persian fleet wintered at Miletus, and putting out to sea in the next year, easily subdued the islands that lie off the mainland, Chios and Lesbos and Tenedos. Whenever they took an island, the foreigners would net the people. This is the matter of their doing it. The men link hands and make a line reaching from the northern sea to the southern, and then advance over the whole island, hunting the people down. They also captured the Ionian cities of the mainland in the same way, but not by netting the people, for that was not possible. Then the Persian generals were not false to the threats they had made against the Ionians when they were encamped opposite them. When they had gained mastery over the cities, they chose out the most handsome boys and castrated them, making them eunuchs instead of men, and they carried the fairest maidens away to the king. They did all this, and they burnt the cities with their temples. Thus 3 times had the Ionians been enslaved, first by the Lydians, and now twice in a row by the Persians. Then the fleet departed from Ionia and captured everything which lies to the left of one sailing up the Hellespont. The right side had been subdued by the Persians themselves from the mainland. These are the regions of Europe that belong to the Hellespont: the Chersonese, in which there are many cities, Perinthus, and the forts that lie towards Thrace, and Selembria in Byzantium. The Byzantines and the Chalcedonians beyond them did not even wait for the attacks of the Phoenicians, but left their land and fled away into the Euxine, and there settled in the city of Mesembria. The Phoenicians burnt the aforementioned places and turned against Proconnesus and Artes. After giving these also to the flames, they sailed back to the Chersonese to finish off the remaining cities, as many they had not destroyed at their former landing. But they did not sail against Cyzicus at all. The Cyzicenes had already made themselves the king's subjects before the Phoenician expedition, by an agreement with the governor at Dascalium, Oberus, son of Megabazus. The Phoenicians subdued all the cities in the Chersonese except Cardia. Miltiades, son of Cimon, son of Stesagoras, was tyrant there. Miltiades, son of Scipilus, had gained the rule earlier in the following manner. The Thracian Delancey held possession of this Chersonese. They were crushed in war by the Absinthians, so they sent their kings to Delphi to inquire about the war. The Pythia answered that they should bring to their land as founder the first man who offered them hospitality after they left the sacred precinct. But as the Delancey passed through Phocis and Boeotia, going along the sacred way, no one invited them, so they turned towards Athens. At that time in Athens Pisistratus held all power, but Miltiades, son of Cypselus, also had great influence. His household was rich enough to maintain a 4-horse chariot, and he traced his earliest descent to Aecus and Aegina, though his later ancestry was Athenian. Phyleus, son of Ajax, was the first of that house to be an Athenian. Miltiades was sitting on his porch when he saw the Delaunci go by with their foreign clothing and spears, so he called out to them, and when they came over he invited them in for lodging and hospitality. They accepted, and after he entertained them, they revealed the whole story of the oracle to him, and asked him to obey the god. He was persuaded as soon as he heard their speech, for he was tired of Pisistratus's rule, and wanted to be away from it. He immediately set out for Delphi to ask the oracle if he should do what the Delaunci asked of him. The Pythia also bade him do so. Then Miltiades, son of Cypselus, previously an Olympic victor in the 4-horse chariot, recruited any Athenian who wanted to take part in the expedition, sailed off with the Delaunci, and took possession of their land. Those who brought him appointed him tyrant. His first act was to wall off the isthmus of the Chersonese from the city of Cardia across to Pactae, so that the Abyssinians would not be able to harm them by invading their land. The isthmus is 36 stadia across, and to the south of the isthmus, the Chersonese is 420 stadia in length. After Miltiades had pushed away the Abyssinians by walling off the neck of the Chersonese, he made war first on the people of Lampsacus, but the Lampsacines laid an ambush and took him prisoner. However, Miltiades stood high in the opinion of Croesus the Lydian, and when Croesus heard what had happened, he sent to the Lampsacines and commanded them to release Miltiades. If they did not do so, he threatened to cut them down like a pine tree. The Lampsacines went astray in their counsels as to what the utterance meant which Croesus had threatened them with, saying he would devastate them like a pine tree, until at last one of the elders understood, and said what it was. The pine is the only tree that once cut down never sends out any shoots, it is utterly destroyed. So out of fear of Croesus, the Lampsacines released Miltiades and let him go. So he escaped by the intervention of Croesus, but he later died childless and left his rule and possessions to Stesagoras, the son of his half-brother Cimon. Since his death, the people of the Chersonese offer sacrifices to him as their founder in the customary manner, instituting a contest of horse races and gymnastics. No one from Lampsacus is allowed to compete. But in the war against the Lampsacines, Stesagoras too met his end and died childless. He was struck on the head with an axe in the town hall by a man who pretended to be a deserter, but in truth was an enemy and a man of violence. Stesagoras met his end in this way. The sons of Pisistratus sent Miltiades, son of Cimon and brother of the dead Stesagoras, in a trireme to the Chersonese to take control of the country. They had already treated him well at Athens, feigning that they had not been accessory to the death of Cimon his father, which I will relate in another place. Reaching the Chersonese, Miltiades kept himself within his house, professing thus to honor the memory of his brother Stesagoras. When the people of the Chersonese learned this, their ruling men gathered together from the cities on all sides, and came together in a group to show fellow feeling with his mourning. But he put them in bonds. So Miltiades made himself master of the Chersonese. There he maintained a guard of 500 men, and married Hegesippyle, the daughter of Olorus, king of Thrace. But not long after this Miltiades, son of Cimon, had come to the Chersonese, greater difficulties than the present afflictions overtook him. He had been driven from the country 3 years before this by the Scythians. The nomadic Scythians, provoked by Darius, gathered themselves together and rode as far as the Chersonese. Miltiades did not await their attack and fled from the Chersonese till the Scythians departed and the Delaunci brought him back again. All this happened 3 years before the matters that now engaged him. But now, learning that the Phoenicians were in Tenedos, he sailed away to Athens with 5 triremes loaded with the possessions that he had near by. He set out from Cardia and crossed the Black Bay, and as he was sailing along the Chersonese, the Phoenicians fell upon him with their ships. Miltiades himself escaped with 4 of his ships to Imbros, but the 5th was pursued and overtaken by the Phoenicians. It happened that the captain of this ship was Metiochus, the eldest son of Miltiades by another wife, not the daughter of Orelus the Thracian. The Phoenicians took this man captive with his ship, and when they heard that he was Miltiades' son, they brought him up to the king, thinking that this would be a very favorable service, because Miltiades had declared his opinion among the Ionians, that they